So then what happened? I'm confused. I thought that they
Basically,
voted
they
down the,
voted it down 4-3 for the 7th.
just that thing.
Welcome, everyone. This is the 9 a.m. board briefing of the Board of County Commissioners. It is June 17th, 2025. Please let the record reflect that all commissioners are present. We are joined virtually by Commissioner Cuny, and the commissioners Jordan, Walter, French, and Kearns are in the conference room. We will lead off today with a presentation from Rose Noble, and it's Visit Spokane's quarterly report. Take it away.
Actually, so today is gonna be short and hopefully sweet. I'm gonna be just briefly going over our economic impact report. I did bring some hard copies if you wanna take a look, and I also did send in advance. So thank you to Josh, Commissioner Kearns, and Commissioner Al French, who came to our event a couple weeks ago.
Is this the same report you
Yes.
had that night?
Yes, it is. So they're a little bit privy to the information as well as Ron, but I did want to get this in front of you. There are 4 numbers that we really love to see increase or stay positive in this report, and they're numbers I would love you all to memorize when you are out and about in the community talking about how important tourism is for our destination. So if you want to flip open to the inside of this. This is our abbreviated or summarized version of our full report. I did actually also send along the full report that we get from Tourism Economics. It breaks down how they get these numbers. It has a lot of great information. This is a trusted, reputable source that we've been using for a long time, and destinations all over the world actually use Tourism Economics to capture this report. So there are more information here. There's more information. The 4 numbers I like to talk about are how many visitors we had, how much they spent, how many jobs that creates, and the amount of money that it offsets per resident in Spokane County, which I think you all should be really excited to hear. So the first number is, for the first time, we have broken more than 10 million visitors to Spokane County. Woo-hoo! So the most ever to come to Spokane County happened in 2024. You can see that in 2023, we had 9.8 million. In 2024, we had 10.1 million visitors, which is pretty awesome. So we're really excited to see that growth pre-COVID too. Before COVID, we were right at the 9.8, and obviously COVID kind of reset a lot of industries, including the hospitality industry. 10.1 million visitors, they spent over or just over $1.53 billion in Spokane County, which is awesome. So that's everything from their lodging to gas to food and beverage, whether it's dining or they're stopping at a grocery store before they go to Airbnb. It's all of those related to overnight stays and spending. This would include some of the day trippers as well. The way that they grab this sample size is if they are in the destination for a certain amount of hours. I don't have it off the top of my head. I think it's 6 hours. They're constituting that, and it's from 50 miles away. They're constituting that as a day visit. It doesn't necessarily have to be an overnight stay to generate these numbers. So all of that spending actually put just over 230 million back in state and local taxes, including Spokane County, which means that every resident that lives in Spokane County, their taxes were offset by $1,080. Which is pretty great, especially in times where everybody are kind of watching their wallets and what they're spending on, and maybe cautious of policy that may or may not be coming down, and the deficit budgets across the state for sure, across the country. So those are our big numbers we like to talk about. The last one is how many jobs it supports. So this stayed relatively flat, which is pretty normal. You have to see significant tourism product development in order to also see the jobs increase. And we didn't see really significant tourism product development in the last year. Hopefully that's a plan that the county and the city can work on together in the coming years, kind of called like a destination master plan of how are we growing our tourism economy in terms of the product that we offer. But 18,000 jobs, it's actually just under 18,000 jobs. I think it hovers around 17,800 or something like that. But 18,000 people are employed via a hospitality related position. That includes admin roles like myself, but also front desk, restaurant, attractions, summer seasonal work at Riverfront Park that may be related to the tourism season. So another great number that I feel like elected officials also like to have in their back pocket when it comes to supporting the industries they support and why they do. And this is a very significant driver for a lot of families in terms of payroll that comes through via visitor spending. So the breakdown, the other breakdown I would encourage you to look at is you often hear me talking about hoteliers. We play in the lodging world. Of course, we are measured by the main metric of overnights. How many overnights do we help capture through our meeting and group recruitment? In 2024, you saw that in my community impact report a couple months ago that we were able to get 84,000 room nights in contract signed. That doesn't mean they're gonna come in 2025, but we secured them in 24 for future years. We're always looking to increase that number, and we are the number one partner for our hotels. That said, what Visit Spokane does is instrumental to many segments. We promote food and beverage, attractions, art and culture. We work with the neighborhoods to make sure that visitors are getting outside of downtown and they are getting to our districts, as well as our areas like Green Bluff and even out into Cheney, who we actually don't receive any dollars from Cheney, but we're still sending them to businesses that are around Spokane County. We're always looking to try to develop those relationships, and it's important to note that we also are probably the number one promoter next to Al French for our airport in terms of trying to get flights into the county. And we recognize that as our number one asset. So we are very grateful for the county to be supportive of Visit Spokane and to be your official destination management organization. And we're always looking to talk about how we can improve that relationship in the future. So any questions on the report? Okay, great. I'll just, before I leave, I will just say, I want to say thank you to Amber and Josh also for meeting about the film commission discussion. I haven't forgot about that. We're still kind of having some internal communications before we come and ask you for another meeting to present potential ideas, but I appreciate your time in that discussion. And I think you did also receive a letter from Jerry Dicker, but I also received it at the same time, so I didn't know he was sending that, but thank you for your time, and we'll connect, and Josh, I'll connect with you.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Rose, thank you. Really great information to see all this stuff and highlights the vibrancy of our region and the fact that people like to come here to visit and tour and whatnot. Kind of questions on the 10.1 million visitors two-part. I'll try to ask the easy one first. Do you guys ever track like trends, and do we see particular times of the year? Intuitively, I would think it's probably something like the warm months, but perhaps not. Perhaps we have more coming in through whether they're migrating in the winter months for the activities that we have around here. But is there certain trends that you see with the visitor?
Yeah, we do track the trend. The best way to track in market audience is through our STR report that our hoteliers give us in terms of lodging stays, overnight stays. There's some segments that we don't have information on, like Airbnb. We're working on trying to solve that. We do know that during the summer is height season for leisure travel, as you can imagine. The park, everything is busy. But we see a great amount of people come late summer into fall for convention business, as well as even our agritourism product that we have. So pulling people in from outside of the county. Q1 has a higher peak for the sports activities that are happening in Q1, but we also do have some significant conventions that happen in Q1 as well. I'm happy to put together a star report for you if you'd like to see that trend, but.
I was just more curious.
Yeah.
My instincts were kind of summer months.
Summer is for sure the number one market. So when we talk about how we stretch our dollar in terms of optimizing everything that we have, you know, we actually will kind of turn down the heat a little bit on our promotions and advertising during the summer season because people are coming. And we really want to try to get the shoulder season, which would be winter months. Although we have sports, we are not seeing dollars going to the other segments, the attractions. Skiing is very important. We're trying to get them more access. And we're trying to bump overnights during those winter months. So that is where our dollar is a little bit heavier during those times.
And then I would imagine the way you're able to determine the number of visitors who come here is very complex and involved. Are there like one or two primary area sources that you guys use that get to 10.1? Is it hotel nights and average number of people who are staying in those things? Is it, what are those things that you?
The number one is hotel nights, and then the second we're able to attach to like a Placer AI data set that tourism economics can geofence certain areas, and they can track how, and that goes basically to your phone, attached to the zip code registered to your phone. So they're just like any data set that you have no official control over, there is like some flex on that number. But those would be the two sources of information, number one being the hotel stays, which is why it also is very critical that we continue to have the relationship that we do with lodging facilities. I will let you know that when we talk to convention hotels, they're great, they're doing all of the collection in terms of data to give us information. Our flexible service hotels, which would be like the Best Westerns, Courtyard Marriott's, so the airport hotels. It's dependent on management, who is there and what data they're collecting and what they can share with us. So anytime we have the ability to encourage GMs to take even more information to give us, to give tourism economics, it just helps our report.
So I was gonna mention this yesterday in my miscellaneous comments, well, then it's more appropriate to mention it here. I've been working with, as many of you know, we have the property lying south of the fairgrounds is owned by STA. And we have a first right of refusal to buy that property if for any reason they should decide to move. And I've been working with the leadership at STA to where they've now found another site. And they're pursuing the other site to relocate their training facility to the other property and stuff, which would free up that property for us to acquire. And then I've been working with the School District 81 and the leadership for, I think it's Bloomsday, but it could be Hoop Fest, to create another venue for Spokane, which would be around volleyball. And through this ballot measure that's going to be on later on this year, there's conversation about using that property south of the fairgrounds as a volleyball, a multi-court volleyball tournament facility, which would again, following up on what Rose was talking about in terms of the sports activities, this would be another kind of like the basketball or other activities that are around high school, but also around collegiate and stuff. So that's a project that's in the mix, and as we get more detail around it, we'll bring it forward and have a conversation about that. But that's another opportunity to expand the sports, working with Rick Betts and Dave Pondon and Alan Swinard.
And I think the P&Q organizers are also donating. I think that's
Yeah.
they're in on that too. And what I would encourage the county to consider is, what is our recruitment plan to develop around those spaces? You know, to have hotels around those spaces. The Cross Course is a great example in the valley. Amazing amenity to add to our county. Really excited about that. Let's talk about possibly developing around that industrial zone to get more activity in options, restaurants, hotels, to make it a real attractive space for people to hang out longer, spend more money. Obviously, all that takes time and money, planning, and it takes a few years, but if we start now, then maybe the long-term plan, 10, 20 years from now, will be more districts outside of downtown that have those amenities to larger spaces. Very cool.
So would that be sand volleyball courts?
What's
Or
that?
would it be an indoor facility or like
Indoor.
outdoor?
The
Oh.
school district is talking about doing these volleyball bubbles. And you can have multiple bubbles there, multiple events going on with the spectators and stuff. And the other thing is that from the school district standpoint, they need to get more athletic facilities in East Central. And that's where this is at. So I mean, there's a lot of synergy coming around the idea to develop this and stuff. So anyway, just more to come.
Thank you very much, Rose.
Thank you. I was saying the courthouse looks beautiful today, doesn't it, with all the roses and the sun? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Roses for road.
I know.
yes, we planted them for you.
Yes.
in preparation.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay, next we have Justin Elliott and Kevin Ritchie. So first up, we had Real Time Crime Center, so you can hop on in.
You guys are due for a quarterly review update, and it's also, we're gonna have a semi-annual comprehensive report to follow after this, but this is a taste of the last quarter or so. So restating our mission that we're dedicated to ensuring the safety and security of the community. We're gonna harness this technology and provide rapid, actionable intelligence to deputies and officers, and that significantly increases the chances of suspect apprehension and case resolution. And an integral part, go on there. This is our staff currently, and I think this is important to look at. We're supported by many people in the sheriff's office, but your direct real-time crime center staff is just, basically those 5 people below you see it, and they do a ton of the work and the statistics that you see coming out. And the proof of concept has been shared, the last couple of years, and we're starting to see, those impacts and actual evidence of.
On timer advancing itself.
Oh, wow, okay. I need to have a clock up above this.
Oh, it's just automatically advancing.
Yeah. It's a good setting.
The timer's telling you to hurry up.
Getting my my awards, the Oscars.
Yeah.
You taking too long. So we go on to the next one. So this is the current staffing. We are covering the school hours, and we've been supporting schools very well. And we're also going to be switching into probably some more in later evenings as we're here into the warmer months. But outside of those hours, we are down, but it's important to know that all the systems that come from the Real-Time Crime Center grant, we like to point out that we have real-time policing technology and systems, and we have the Real-Time Crime Center. And when the Real-Time Crime Center is not being staffed, the real-time policing systems are still in place and supporting just in a different way. But we had training last week, and the crime center had nobody in there, so we were providing that support because we don't have a minimum staffing. All right, so our goals, I'll let you guys read the body of these, but goal 1 is to foster communication and trust, enhance individual analyst efficiency, boost overall real-time crime center efficiency, standardized documentation, and securing of technology grants to support our sustainability budget. I'd like to point out that there was a Police One article. Police One is a law enforcement publication that's nationally distributed, and we were showcased as using the Real-Time Crime Center to support non-traditional law enforcement functions such as Skyfest, Valley Fest, parades, civil disturbances, the wildfires, investigative support for controlled buys and SWAT operations, where we're using these in not just a call response fashion. And we got some, again, some sharing across the nation with how we're doing that to pioneer in the Northwest. So good support there. All right, our cows are also getting a lot of attention across the US and regionally. In fact, I just fielded a call from Pasco. Everybody wants to know how we're doing this at such a reasonable amount of cost and reusing these patrol vehicles and the successes that they're having. So these are our 2 newest cows that are into circulation now. We have a total of 6 with 2 in the valley, and they continue to have their success. And we had 3 in support of the demonstrations on Sunday here downtown, and we had some evidentiary successes come out of those.
Question on.
Yes.
I've seen them downtown. Is that just kind of by request, or how do you determine kind of when to send them into the city?
Yeah, so that, we have a lot of requests as we're becoming more well-known. City's downtown captain asked for them for some Riverfront Park crime issue they were having. We deployed it, and I was told, I haven't looked at the case yet, but it did catch evidence of a stabbing that occurred downtown and help them. They were very happy to have it. Another captain for City North asked to have it deployed in a neighborhood they were having problems, and we were able to accommodate that. But essentially, we look at the planned deployments we have in the county and the valley, and we look at it on a priority basis of what's going on. And typically I'll make that decision. We were deploying up to North 40 at their request, in North Spokane and many other locations. The valley uses it for targeted addresses when they're having intelligence-led requests like drug house and whatnot. So very versatile, but it's either based on data that we have or specific requests from the community and from other agencies.
Can I ask, so you referenced the North 40. So was that because there was crime that was happening and that's what, or was this kind of a deterrence? I mean, I mean, I guess, how do you sort of prioritize location? Because you get a lot of asks for them. How do you prioritize where they go?
So in that example, if it's an acute, like, hey, we're having a lot of vehicle thefts or shopliftings during that time, right now, and it's a rash right now, that would be a higher priority.
Got it. Okay.
Versus, hey, we want to have, you put us in the rotation, we'd like to have them present, we'd like the deterrence effect. Then we look at it as, okay, they just want to get one there at some point, maybe today isn't more important, and it's just a case by case basis.
Okay, so is there a list like with the radar trailer? I know we make the request to scope fairly often.
Yeah.
And so that we're added to the list, you know, and then it, you know, that works it. Do you guys have a similar list like that as well?
Yeah, Dustin Bonsgard is the supervisor of Real Time Crime Center, and he collects those, and his team will then deploy them at where it's the strategic priority.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if it's an outside agency request, I ask that to come to me.
Okay.
So they're not put in a position to have to tell somebody no based on their perception.
Okay.
And we just look at all the different ones and go, what's most important? Obviously, sheriff's office first, community partners, other agencies, and it's just a case by case basis of where we can deploy it. So for example, we were watching one of the cows up at Francis and Wall, and we saw somebody putting a note on the window, and we were able to see the company on the side of the truck. I called him, he answers the phone while we're watching him on the camera. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he was kind of taken aback a little bit. And it was the property management owner for the Safeway, and they have many other locations. He says, we really love it. I want to see it at some other places. I said, you know, we have a regular phone number. You don't have to leave notes on our car. So he was very appreciative. And he said, well, there was another note. There was a bright yellow one. We ran the video back, and it was a guy that was very upset with city police and some other responses. And he put a note for the sheriff to call.
So I guess it's your new mailbox.
It's our bulletin board.
I mean,
right?
if it works.
And you're gonna actually see some video from that camera.
Right?
So a lot of it is
Review.
downtown business partners are also like it for just the general crime impact they've been having. I don't know if you guys got some of the statistics, but at one of the hospitality groups down around the globe at Main and Division, they keep kind of their own stats, and we believe in the sheriff's office, there's some lack of reporting sometimes in the community now, so crime stats. He was keeping his own data that he had an average of 1.5 vehicle prowlings per day, plus graffiti and homeless garbage and whatnot. And he said the period of the couple weeks that we had the cow there, he had 0 every single day. And as soon as we moved it, it came back in at some level. So citizen requests directly to us, maybe it's through the sheriff, it could be from other agencies. It's always a case by case basis to make sure we're just getting our priorities in order.
Joseph.
Yes.
I'm the budget guy, so I mean, are the other jurisdictions financially participating, contributing when they're asking for use of these things in their jurisdictions?
We do not currently have a function in place for financial support from the other agencies. We're hoping to show the successes so that we can ask for either, you know, if it's adding bodies into the crime center so we can not leave it unmanned at important times, or if it's subscription fees through some functions that we can support the sustainability. But at this time, no, we don't ask for any financial response. That also, you know, it ties into our priority, because our priority is, you know, the sheriff's office mission, but then also supporting, as Rig 9, we're a regional asset to agencies that maybe are less funded or don't have those abilities. So answer your question is no, we don't have any financial function coming in right now.
Sounds like, though, in demonstrating the value of this type of intelligence and promoting safety in the community, you guys are looking at how do you one, show the importance of it, and then figure out some sort of subscription-based model that can help broader fund the operations.
Absolutely. From day one, the model's been, if we build it, they will come. So we're hoping that that's going to be the reality. And we'll show some statistics here in a little bit to show how much we're supporting other agencies to make it a regional program, because we're all one area here, and being able to tie in all these layers has shown rapid success. Yes, sir.
So, assuming you start out, I think the rigs you're using are Explorers, Ford Explorers.
Yeah, our most recent retired patrol
So
cars.
assuming that I had one of those, and I wanted to dress it out so where it functioned just like what you've got now, what would something like that cost?
Without the cost of the vehicle?
Yeah.
So the outfitting costs we found were right between $16,000 and $18,000. And that's minus the vehicle cost and the labor, because we're using our garage staff, we're using our real-time crime center IT manager to outfit these and using their expertise. If you were to do that privately, I think that would be exponentially higher, minimally the labor, if you went through like a Raycom or some other contractor. But for us as an agency, patrol car is already paid for. And it would be roughly, yeah, about $18,000. Speaking with Seattle PD, they just opened their real-time crime center, so now there's 2 in the Northwest after us being the first. And they lease vehicles, so they really like the concept, but they don't have that function to bring an old vehicle in. So they'd have to purchase it.
So hypothetically, if I was a real estate property manager, multiple properties, and I wanted to be able to take advantage of this technology, could I provide the vehicle and all of the equipment and link into the system so that it's monitored by your program?
You have to provide the equipment, right? Just your own video camera systems.
Yeah, I mean, we can provide advice on a contractor that could accomplish that, and then the connection to the crime center is already in place. We have video connections available, and absolutely. We've talked with some of our construction partners about this exactly, and also some of our retail theft organization, and that's been a discussion. They're like, how do we accomplish this? Because the parking lot trailers, the cost of what either to purchase those or to rent those, clearly exceeds the cost of that scenario that you laid out.
Well, and the challenge is as a property manager, I'm probably paying close to that on an annual basis for security company to do something a lot less than what they can do with that. And the other thing is, you go to Walmart and stuff, they got the cameras and the blue lights and all that. But, a criminal doesn't pay attention to that. They can't ignore a vehicle sitting there saying, I'm watching you. And so there is value. And so I could, if I get back in the business, I could see it'd be worth my time to outfit it and provide the link to the county.
It's a very realistic scenario.
Yeah,
Just paint it green and green.
I know where paint is. The spell sheriff, but I can do it.
Well, you might remember the funding a while ago for Peregrine. It's been a long project, but it's been very successful. Peregrine is a data aggregation platform that brings all of our multiple systems into conjunction and information sharing. And pretty soon, we're at the point where you see that.
Mary's got her hand up.
Yes, Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk on the subject that you just finished. Because yes, there has been some construction companies that I may know that have talked about this. I think what we need to do from the sheriff's office perspective is one of the things that I was thinking about is we need to come up with what that would look like if individual companies are going to, make their own cow, basically. And, is there a sticker that we can put on it that says, can be, because you're not tracking what's going on. You're just, if a crime occurs, you're able to then look at that footage and see what's going on, or if you need it for, something going by. I mean, we, kind of piloted it. But I think we have to look at, what would be a legal sticker that we could put on those vehicles that would say, can be monitored by the sheriff's office, or, what that would look like, and what the liability would be for, us versus the, kind of a contract with those companies to make sure that we have the liability handled properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So that function is kind of already in place with our businesses that want to connect, and we give them stickers or flyers that they can put up that says this being monitored by the sheriff, can be monitored by the sheriff's office, and or in partnership with. And there's also agreements that they sign that shows that, this isn't an agreement that we will respond to everything that happens. Is that if we're able to, we will. So I think there's a method there to meet what you're talking about.
But we're not trying to replace businesses that are already doing this. We're just trying to enhance what the opportunities are.
Yes, and for us to be able to access in real time, so that we can get resources there.
Yeah, so those are just some of the thoughts as discussions have happened that I've had with businesses that I just think are worth us further, investigating. And I think it's a great idea.
This would be no different than the agreements you have with businesses that have the cameras affixed to the building.
Right.
Instead, they're just going to affix the camera to a car in the parking lot instead.
That's
Right.
exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, so, yeah, because I know I know when we took the tour, you specifically talked about some business owners and businesses that you have a very close relationship. I know one of them was the car wash plazas. I know they're hooked in, and so, you've kind of highlighted them, and so this would just be, instead of having it connected to the building, they connect it to a car that sits out in the parking lot.
Same exact function.
Yeah.
It's our public-private partnership. So just an augmentation of that.
All right.
No new wheels to be invented other than the 4 wheels on the cow. So again, I'll switch over to Peregrine real quick. We did some training with our agency and supporting investigations. It has many, many functions. And we're learning that and had a lot of successes. Soon, I hope that each of you will have your own dashboard access to be able to get crime stats for your areas in real time. We'll extend that to different city managers of our contract cities and council people that, again, you'll be able to get that real data from the Peregrine dashboard. But ultimately, if a person has, let's say, a dozen profiles for different entries in multiple of our systems, Peregrine will take that and put it into one profile. It just really streamlines our investigations and getting data real quick. We were just using it heavily this Sunday with the last shooting incident to try to get data quickly.
So if I didn't want that on my dashboard, could I get it in my office? No, never.
Oh, that dashboard. Yeah. Yeah, and also on your phone too.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll be working on that. All right.
Dad jokes for days.
Yeah.
I gotta remember all the lingo that we have to use here in tech now. Fusus is another very powerful system that is from the Axon contract. And this is going to be another live video. It brings in computer aided dispatch. As you see the video tiles down there, body cam will all come through here for live body cam from our deputies, and just multiple systems coming in to the Fusus implementation platform. And we're moving into phase 2 of that. I think we're gonna have some school camera integration as well. Just makes access to this data a lot quicker than having to log into several different systems. So our deputies usually don't have time to remember their 8 passwords in a fast evolving situation. All right, we are in the planning and implementation phase for the approved 26 Flock ALPR cameras in Spokane Valley. It's been kind of a dark spot that will increase our capabilities in the valley. And again, we just got some location issues we're working through right now. We also have 9 of the Flock long range cameras on the auto theft grant that are being installed as we speak. And that'll give us access to many of the state highways with LPR from either county or private property access locations. All right, we are exploring drone first responder, expanding from the drones we already have out of patrol for response. And our real-time crime center analysts were all received training last week on piloting so that they can augment patrol and our tactical responses with drone. So we're gonna have a drone sense dock. I think it's showing up here shortly so that we can start doing some demo flights out of the valley. And this is primarily ran through the air support unit, but we support it through the crime center. All right, we get through some stats real quick. You can see since the last time I was here, the second half of 2024, our total success stories are up. You'll see that the system success stories are down, but the analyst ones are up. We've had now full-time 3 analysts there. You get one or the other. The system was used, but if an analyst had the success, it defaults to the analyst. That's why you see the contrast in numbers there. But we're continuing to have more impact and success. I'd like to point out that all these numbers in comparison to the last half yearly are missing almost an entire month of data because of our timing with this report. So you're getting 5 months instead of 6. So that'll also skew some of the numbers. Charges and missing persons, dangerous situations. You can see that some are down, some are up. We're beginning to see that the successes we've had are tending to lessen the number of fish in the pool, so to speak. We're solving a lot of crimes, we're catching a lot of people, and we think it's having an impact, which subsequently future successes are definitely targeted, but maybe not the mass numbers we had at inception.
So if you had to characterize where in the county a lot of these crimes are occurring, is it city, county, unincorporated, valley? I mean, is there any hotspot, I guess, that you've discovered as a result of this?
I would say that we are mostly discovering we're catching the thoroughfares. So if you had an area that was a hotspot for stolen vehicles and you have an area that's a hotspot for dumped stolen vehicles, we're focusing on that route between them, not so much as a hotspot, in order to interdict those. And since this started off with cameras in unincorporated, we put them kind of spread out versus one concentrated area. We're finding that our stats are showing where we have real-time policing systems and then we have officers nearby, we're getting great numbers. Let's say heading out west towards the casino, we have a lot of officers from several agencies. We've got cameras there. But you get into other areas, we could give you the statistics of actual where the crimes are occurring will look different than where we're detecting and catching them, if that kind of answers your question.
Yep. No, thank you.
As you can see, we've got successes. An analyst assist or a touch is just the level of involvement they had. A success is going to be they were very integral in the case outcome. An analyst touch could be they see an active call going on, they're getting into it, they're looking at it. They may not have had a direct impact, but they spent time working on it. Asset moves, if we can go back to that real quick. I'd like to point out the amount of time that our real-time crime center is saving deputies and investigators and allowing them to do more important things. Asset moves, you can see in the last year, close to 400 hours. I'm sorry, 400 moves, and the hours are, well, they're not far off of 400 either. That we have saved investigators that would traditionally had to move our technology assets. And then how many people are coming through and seeing the first crime center here in the Northwest is just in the last 6 months, 32 tours. 250 visitors. So we had WASPIC here just a few weeks ago, and a lot of chiefs and sheriffs got to come through and see what we built. Thank you. We talked a little while ago about other agencies. Mr. Simmons here, you can see the numbers of our assists to other agencies. One thing I like to point out on this one is if it was state patrol or marshals, a lot of the agencies don't know what we can offer. And we had the marshals come in for a tour once, and they were looking for a murder suspect, and we were able to show them some assists that we can do. And you can see the numbers going from 0 to 6 to 23 assists for the U.S. Marshals, based on them just knowing that they have this resource regionally. And then some of our other surrounding agencies, as you can see, provide quite a bit of support outside the agency. So, regional impact. Follow up from last time, we had a list of violent crimes that we had a significant impact on that case. So still a lot of violent crimes, which is our focus and how we're supporting those investigations and getting resolutions and better cases to prosecute. Some numbers coming out of a study in Connecticut have stated that having video in a case increases the case resolution by almost 600%. Just having some video. So video impact on an investigation is extremely high, and we're trying to just increase that impact.
I've got a follow-up question on that. clearly you're having an immediate impact out on the street and you're talking about the success of the investigation. Is that the only piece that this helps in the whole system? Can you talk a little bit about what happens when it leaves the sheriff's department to go to the prosecutor, to go to the court, discovery through that process?
Yes, we've talked about that specifically, the ripple effects. There's so many, every direction from the crime center has value and you can only focus so much of capturing that in a short period of time. But we've had good meetings with one of our partners with Waspic, a new, she's a doctor, worked for WSU as well, and also an analyst in Tucson. And we're sharing to get some data on what does that case resolution look like? And did we mitigate the need to go to trial? How many times? What was the cost savings there? Did somebody get more time because of better evidence? Did we get exonerations for having better evidence and be able to focus on the right suspect? It goes back to our precision policing model. And how much time and impact in the criminal justice system all the way through. We're trying to look at the best way to tackle that and maybe find a couple cases where we've got a very similar case that's gone through the system and this was the outcome. And here's another case with this value added. What was the gap there? What increased? So it is a focus of ours. We just don't have that exact product yet.
As you're bringing on new technology and systems like Peregrine and Fuses, are you facing any kind of challenges with sharing that information with the prosecutor's office?
Well, I think we're seeing that Peregrine has the ability to actually increase the sharing of that packet into the prosecutor's office, so we can have like a direct reporting there. And I'm not seeing any challenges because those two systems, they take existing systems and just bring them to the forefront so that all that data still exists in its original form, in its native program. So we still go back to that program if it's for a PDR or if it's for discovery with the prosecutor's office. If anything, it helps identify where that data is sooner. Thanks. All right. Okay, so I'm going to get into a couple success stories. The videos, and Ron, I don't know if you were able to skip forward on any of them as we go, so we don't have to spend too much time on the video, because there's like 4 or 5 minute videos. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'll go over this. This is just some example of the many successes we've had. We've got 3. This one's going to be a felony suspect arrest, and the next 2 are going to be some auto thefts with some layered technology. So, so deputies responded to a rape of a 9-year-old child this last year. They determined he had been raped and molested by the mother's boyfriend multiple times over several month periods. So significant crime involved that we take very seriously. So the detectives were able to get probable cause to arrest this individual for 2 counts of rape of child in the first degree and 2 counts of child molestation in the first degree. He then fled the area likely to avoid prosecution. An arrest warrant was issued for him. So without any new information coming in, there probably isn't a whole lot that's going to happen after that. There's a warrant in the system. We hope he gets picked up. So go to the next. So we have a light duty deputy assigned to the crime center, and he's been learning a lot of systems, been doing a great job, and we can start tackling things like tracking down individuals like this with our systems. So just a few weeks ago, and we have people that are digging really hard. He was conducting research on active warrants. He came across this case. He used some of our just open source systems that we have to identify that the person, this individual had an address in Illinois. He reached out to the agency, the Rock Island Sheriff's Office in Illinois. They went and knocked on his door and took him into custody, and he is now shipped back here for prosecution. Just one example of the extra work they're doing to forward investigations. All right, I'm going to walk you through a capture here. So go ahead. So this vehicle in the bottom left, the silver vehicle.
Can I just follow that?
Yes.
So is there a way that all of our investigators or detectives can be using the resources more effectively then? I mean, you're talking about this one light duty who can really focus in, but what about all the other investigators and detectives that are, investigating different potential crimes?
Yeah, they're, they can do one thing at a time.
Can they
So
plug in, can they get trained on using this so that they can find people easier, make a case?
absolutely, when we separate real-time policing and real-time crime center, those real-time policing functions are the addition to supporting investigations like Peregrine and Fusus. We arm them with that training so they can do these searches themselves as well. And they also have analysts within their units that use it as well. This is a good example of they did the bulk of that case and it went to warrant. There wasn't a whole lot they were doing, kind of got into apprehension mode. But no, we are sharing those systems with them, but we find that those investigators are also coming upstairs all the time to the real-time crime center and asking for help because each unit, they kind of have their specialty and their strengths. And we have so many systems. Our analysts in the crime center have, I'm not exaggerating, 30 to 40 systems open at one time that they're logged into. So they can hear what the goal is, what they're trying to accomplish, go, oh, here's the best systems for that. Whereas individual detectives, they kind of use the same ones that fit their area of expertise or their unit's focus.
Yeah, it just seems like an opportunity to keep growing and increasing all of our investigators, you know, ability, right?
We give them as much as they have capacity for.
That's a lot of systems.
It
yeah.
is. And we're trying to take care, we've had a lot of these previously that weren't being used. And now that we have kind of this repository, this nerve center, systems that we've been paying high dollar for are now getting used in real time, not a week or two later when the investigators get around to getting the case assigned.
Can I ask, so
Yes.
what equipment within the real-time crime center then was used to apprehend this guy that was in Illinois? What was it? Was it some sort of software that located
Sure.
the recently used address in Illinois? Is that, was that some specialty software that pinged that, or?
It's pretty basic police work. Pretty basic police work with some some high-tech systems. So he would use Peregrine, which now has the function to take all active warrants, and we can do it spatially, find out where they're at. We can do timeframes, and it'll go by the severity of crime. So to see what he's going to look at first. So they go to the active warrant list that they can conglomerate from all the different systems, goes through, finds this, oh, rape or child. Let's focus on that. And then he would go through several different systems, including it could be employment security, it could be open source social media, it could be 10 other systems that I could rattle off for you. But he used a system called TLO, which is, it takes credit reporting that any company buys that data. Well, we have several systems that we have access to that can pull up individuals, and through either a utility bill or a credit card or something that's open source, not just law enforcement, he was able to see that, hey, during the time frame this guy is absconded, we got a hit in Illinois, let's follow up on that. And it started focusing towards it. Got it. And was able to get him apprehended. All right, so June 6th again was a busy day. At 7 p.m., 7:30, we get an LPR hit northbound in Millwood. Go ahead. And then another one, actually, these images are switched, if anybody noticed that detail. And it also hits again northbound at Bigelow Gulch. So we start crime center and dispatch, deputies start tuning into it. We actually had air support. Air 1 was up during this time for a patrol flight. So go ahead. You'll see that we were able to determine that the vehicle, we don't know if they were trying to avoid further LPRs or just decided he missed his turn, but he does a U-turn up in the middle of nowhere between there and Peone and comes back. Go ahead. And then we get the indication that he's going east on Bigelow Gulch. So units are starting to merge on this area. Go ahead. Air 1 about halfway between there and Forker. Air 1 picks up on the vehicle. So it's entering a pretty rural area, and it gets difficult for deputies to stay with them. So if a deputy on a vehicle gets up there soon, it's probably going to end up in a vehicle pursuit, right? And we're typically trying to avoid that when we have resources such as technology or the airship to avoid creating a pursuit. Go ahead. So he goes into the Antoine Peak trailhead, wooded, dirt roads, parking lot. Would have been, without the airship, without this information, we're probably not catching this vehicle. So the video is going to be, like I said, 4 or 5 minutes. We'll try to skip through a few, but you'll see and hear.
No audio.
No audio?
Yeah.
Darn. Okay. You won't hear him talking about it, so follow me. Go ahead. So we talk about layered technology, the airship and the downlink from the helicopter to the crime center and the deputies all working together to increase apprehension and also increase safety and knowing more by the time we're making contact when it's the most important, when the most significant safety issues are. So he's gonna end up in the parking lot here. Air One is directing deputies in based on what they're seeing. And tell them, hey, there's one person in there.
What time was this again?
About 7:30 at night. They'll switch to regular camera here in a second as well. So we got a bystander there we gotta be considerate of. And then we're switched over. And Ron, if you start skipping a few moments at a time, in the interest of time, you'll see they're gonna go through a felony stop. Take him into custody safely. And I'll give you a little backstory on this individual. Yeah, it's just gonna go through the felony stops. You can keep going. They take him into custody safely. So this vehicle was stolen in Glendive, Montana. This individual had an acquaintance or a friend that he went to lunch or dinner with. And said, hey, I want to pay for dinner, but I forgot my wallet. I just need to run down the street to get it. She gave him her keys and he never returned, and he's in Spokane. So he stole her car and also skipped out on dinner.
Jeez.
And he's out here probably committing other crimes in our area, and he's now not committing any more because of our systems. So you can probably go to the next one.
So he got a free dinner out of her and he gets a free meal out of us.
That's right.
A couple free meals.
Couple free meals. Well put.
Food connoisseur.
Another example of just how our systems are getting resolutions quick. LPR alert on a stolen vehicle. This is at Francis and Wall. Remember we talked about there's a cow parked in that parking lot. People are putting notes on it. Same one. Analysts noticed the vehicle as it hits, it alerts on the camera. It's pulling into that Safeway parking lot. They immediately switch over to the live video on the cow, which is probably 80 yards away from the pumps where this vehicle pulls up to get gas. So this guy, his name is Quentin Sin, S-I-N-N. We didn't make that up. He befriended a 60-year-old woman. She allowed him to come stay at her house. I don't know exactly the circumstances. The next day, he took off with her vehicle, nowhere to be seen. And then, as you can see in the video, it's pretty self-explanatory from there. So this is the cow video. They plug in and they start searching and they go, oh, there's the vehicle right there in the forefront under the Safeway sign. You can see him at the pumps with somewhat of a camo shirt on and a hat on backwards. You can start skipping if you'd like. We're able to go and confirm the plate because we want to make sure that read was correct. We're always double checking for accuracy.
The zoom on those cameras is incredible. Wow.
That's not even a long distance one.
It's about the same.
About the same.
Yeah. These are standard over-the-counter access cameras that any business can buy. And so deputies are able to, and officers from SPD are able to come in, block him in, no pursuit, compliance, taken into custody safely. I forgot to bring it with me, but just his Washington record is a huge laundry list of crimes, from assault to theft to everything you can think of. Basically a career criminal. And his spree has ended on this day based on the good work of the patrol officers and the crime center analysts. And he got a free meal as well. At least one. I think Rhonda, any questions?
Any questions?
Great work.
Yeah, no, this is a great presentation. This is awesome. Yeah, well done.
And you're scheduled for another one soon, right? More comprehensive presentation.
Well, that's up to you guys. You want another presentation, but we'll have a full semi-annual report, that will be out.
Awesome.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you. All right, you're up.
I just have a couple quick things. I'll be getting you guys back on schedule. The first one is the acceptance of the HIDA, which is the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Task Force Grant. It comes from the feds, the Office of the President, and this is some of the money that we use to fund our Raven task force. It looks like it's a reward that we get every couple years.
Any questions? Nope. Okay.
All right, then the second is the agreement with Langley Productions for the COPS program. They are set to start filming July 29th for 2 weeks. They'll have some filming down in the unincorporated and in the valley as well. And there's some indemnification language with the contract, but it's like this is essentially the same contract that we had with them last time when they did the filming. A lot of the concerns are anonymity of the public and that kind of thing, and everyone that's filmed has to give consent, and employees have to give consent before being filmed or placed in the on production as well. So it's a pretty small, simple contract. It's been through legal and just briefing it for the indemnification language.
Can I ask, I know you were in about a year ago, I think,
Yes.
to talk about it. I assume they came and did the filming?
Yes.
Okay, I never saw anything. They're an internet
It's
show,
all
right?
online now, yeah. So
Okay.
you have to go online. I don't even know the platform to watch it online, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's all online. They don't air on TV anymore.
Okay, but everything ran smoothly last year?
Yeah, I have not heard
So-
any complaints or any negative issues with last year. So
Okay. All right. Commissioner Friend?
So criminals are not known to be the smartest apple in the bunch.
Not the ones that get caught,
What's that?
not the ones that get caught.
Have you ever encountered somebody that signed off and then an attorney come in and said, well, they weren't competent enough to sign the release?
I don't know the answer to that question. That would not surprise me, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Yeah, just curious.
And I don't know how that works with giving your consent, if it can be revoked later. That would be a
Be a legal challenge later
Legal,
on,
yeah.
depending on the facts and circumstances. I'm not aware we've seen one of those.
Okay.
Any questions? All right,
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Ashley Callan,
Right here.
all right, you're up.
All right, so this is the 5th year that I have been here to ask that the board approve a reimbursement fund from the state. And these are for attorney appointments in guardianship cases. We're required to appoint, we're required to pay. Thankfully, even though funding is tough this go round, the state didn't cut this. So I would just request that the board allow us to sign off on this agreement, which completely reimburses the cost borne by the court to pay for these appointments. Legal has approved it. So I believe if the board is okay with it, it'll be on the consent agenda next week. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Nope,
All right, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good rest of the day.
you too. All right, looking, Kevin. Oh, here we are. Just. All right. Kevin Norris from IT, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. Want to discuss today our new ILA proposal for services provided out at the Central Communications Building. Currently, the county, the city, and Shrek share space. I have a presentation if you want to pull that up. Wait for our presenter. Forthcoming. Currently, the county, city, and Shrek share space at the communications center. We don't rent space there. We rent services and maintenance there for the space that we hold. Previous ILAs have provided governance regarding the ownership, administration, and ongoing operations and payment for lease space and services. That's what we pay for, is the space and services. The new ILA provides updated terms of use specifically for the space use percentages, which fortunately for the county hasn't changed at all in this new agreement. The county IT, we currently occupy 1% of the shared lease space. Space is approximate based on the county's server rack footprint. We currently use that space for disaster recovery purposes. We have backup servers. We move all of our data. We back it up all out to there. In case we have a disaster, we have data that we can go to and use. Financial impact of this new ILA. We have not received a bill, county IT, since 2021 for our defined lease space. The ILA provides guidance for making prior payments that we're obligated to make based on lease space percentages. And IT can absorb these expenses, total of about $24,000. We can absorb these through budget amendments for revenues that IT has collected that we need to just get into our funds so we can pay these bills. And what we're looking for is approval of the ILA. Requires an authorized signature from the county to move forward. That's it. Any questions?
Questions?
Do you recall when the ILA expires or what the termination term is?
The term, I think this is through 2028, I believe. But I can't recall. It's in the ILA is part of the package.
Will we continue to need this space once Shrek relocates?
We will unless we move somewhere else. And there's been discussion regarding that. And we do have a 180-day out at any point in time. If we decided today we didn't want to be there in 2026, we could give notice and be out there at the end of this year. So there is an out as well.
Mr. Walker?
So, sorry, I was getting a little confused. So we hadn't been billed for,
We haven't, no,
okay, for 3 years by,
by the city.
That's because the ILA expired.
The ILA expired.
oh, I see, okay. Got it.
They hadn't worked, city had not worked to renew it until just recently. Same as Shrek.
Okay.
Just some fault to, the commissioner may recall, this is, as Kevin said, it's only for 1% of maintenance operations. The county and Shrek do not pay for any lease costs because it's under a past bond that went out by the city, and then the county contributed dollars towards the construction of the facility. So the ILA says we don't pay lease costs, we just pay M&O, and we share on M&O and capital depreciation on the building. And yes, we'll have the ability, if there's not a need to be in there, when Shrek relocates out to their own building, we can evaluate the time and determine if we want to move our equipment stuff there over to our new building, Shrek's new building.
Questions? Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to Matt Miracore. Quit claim deed, Forest Grove Homeowners Association. It's the Scrivener's error, I think. You got a preview of this yesterday, but
Yeah. So thank you, Commissioner.
it's a different one.
Yeah, we got lots of Scriveners.
Different Scrivener's error, never mind.
So
Scripters.
put a lot of dialogue on this slide. I apologize for that. Kind of wanted to share the history. What this was, Jasper did the work on it. Just summarizing, if you have any questions, it'll probably end up going to Jasper here. But basically what happened is in the city of Spokane, they recorded a plat back in November of 23. And it had language on it that dedicated stormwater tracts to the county. It was just erroneous. Nobody caught the language. We weren't part of it because it was a city plat. It just happened. So we're just trying to clean it up. Jasper had some conversations with the city attorneys. They discussed a couple different ways. You can do flat re-recording, but it's not recent enough to be supportable. Plat alterations are painful. You have to get 90% of the people to agree to them, and that's not gonna happen on a plat realistically. So we came to this quick claim deed, and it was agreeable to both us and the city. It does clean it up, pretty straightforward, and had discussions also about trying not to let this happen again, obviously, because nobody wants to have to clean up this sort of thing. But that was really the gist of it. If you go to the next slide, it has some pictures showing where it is. It's up on 5 Mile. You can see Strong Road along the bottom there, and 5 Mile along the left side of the screen. So just up in the corner of the city, almost into the county. And the next slide. That's just a little snippet out of the plat and the language out of the dedication of the plat that shows where they dedicated it in Spokane County. So that's kind of the history on it. Happy to answer any questions, at least Jasper would be.
Any questions? We're good.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kyle, stormwater equipment discussion.
Good morning, commissioners. If you recall, I was very pleased to share a few weeks back that we had received some funds in the Monsanto Part B settlement related to stormwater. So if you go back into the class action lawsuit here, there was a ton of class action members, and about $500 million was awarded in the first portion of the settlement. If you recall, we got about 3.7 million. And then about a year ago, we found out about the Part B claim opportunity to the special master, which was kind of a fractional portion of that larger award, where we made an request for $5.1 million of stormwater related items. Go to the next slide, Ron. So here was what we asked for: street sweepers, factors, and some outfall removals. And these were our estimated costs at the time. These were all eligible under the Part B fund. We were very pleased to see that equipment was on there. That's not a common opportunity. Go to the next slide. So we got 2 million out of the 5.1 we requested. So kind of thinking about the best use of our dollars, we went out and got bids for the sweepers and vectors that we had put into that settlement. You notice that third bullet, that's kind of an important part of why the staff recommends we are moving forward with equipment purchases. We currently spend quite a bit of money renting sweepers and vectors, $76,000 and $145,000 a year respectively. So that's if we purchase this equipment, it's a 5-year payback on the sweepers and a 4.5-year payback on the vector trucks. And with the service lives of these equipment, they will basically pay themselves back 3 times, possibly even 4 less maintenance. So maybe let's just stick with 2.5 to 3. But really good opportunity, allows us to upgrade or, increase our level of service, because those rental costs, that's not for the full year. That's really just for a lot of what we do during the spring and summer. So this allows us to utilize that equipment as well for some winter needs. The vectors are particularly valuable in spring runoff events and certain issues we run into. In a pinch, you can use them for guardrail repair or careful excavation.
How many are we renting for the 76,000 a
It's
year?
Usually we rent 2,
Just 2. Okay.
but that's for cost per. Is what
That is.
Yeah, that's each. So it's huge. They're
Okay.
very expensive pieces of equipment
Got
to
it.
rent, because they're very
Okay.
high maintenance. They tend to eat themselves. The vectors and the sweepers are the one that just, you don't want to keep them any longer than you have to.
Yeah.
The vector we have right now, the one we're down to, is 15 years old, and it is really at the end of its life. It's down more than it's up.
Okay.
So it's really timely to be talking.
Okay,
about
I just wanted to
this.
make sure that wasn't 76,000 to rent, 5 of them a year, and we're gonna go down to 2, and now it's great we own them, but we're not gonna be able to provide the level of service. Okay, got it. Okay.
Next slide, Ron. So this also kind of does go hand in hand with our stormwater conversations from a couple of months ago. It'll allow us to do more on our sweeping work, our structure cleaning, and we'll have the equipment on hand to address the flooding issues. Not having to buy these out of the road fund is huge. That just keeps dollars in the road fund that'll get put back on the ground. That's just a direct one-to-one, because otherwise the road fund typically purchases this equipment. And I want to talk about those outfalls for a minute here. So we had listed a dozen outfalls around the county, pretty much bridges, where we have some stormwater that finds its way into a waterway that is not treated. That was why we included them in there. They're kind of great stormwater projects that we would like to get to. But now that we're out of, I won't say out of GMA, we're in GMA compliance. These are just home run opportunities for ecology grants. They love these projects. Very easy to get outside funding for, which is why we would recommend going with the equipment, because we don't have other opportunities to use other funds for that. And we think we have plenty of opportunity to find grant funds for those outfall projects that we still want to do. And we intend to complete them. We'll usually bundle a few of them into a project because they're kind of small. So 4 or 5 of them at a time. And we think we have plenty of opportunities to bring in, $4 to $1 on those with the ecology grants. They're about 20%.
Yeah, so just also wanted to take the opportunity, one, to thank the board for their support of expanding the stormwater service area. We're already seeing huge benefits from it. I think we even discussed previously that we had $4 million worth of runoff damage and asphalt damage this year, and our preservation budget for the entire year was $4 million. So without that ability to access the fund balance in the stormwater utility by expanding the service area, we wouldn't have had a preservation program this year. We would have had to fully just focus on repairing roadways. So it's been a huge help already. I'm sure you're still all getting complaints about the road and the conditions of the roads. We're working on it. It's going to take the full year to address all the damage that was done to the road. We'll be working into the fall just to get the roads put back together, but we're also able to do a lot of our preservation work on top of it. One interesting thing I wanted to note to the board is we went out, our crews were too busy to do all the work. So we were going to go out with some asphalt work. We estimated it, and we estimated it heavy, understanding that this work is shotgun scattered all over the county. And we estimated it at $412,000 and put it out on the street. We called all the vendors to make sure they were aware of it because it wasn't in our plan. And they all responded, yes, we'd be interested. And we got bids, and we got very good bids, and that there was a lot of them and they were tightly grouped. They were between 1.1 and 1.7 million for what we estimated at 412. And the really interesting part is we can self-perform that work for $250,000. They are 4 to 5 times our numbers self-perform. So just additional ammunition for when we're saying that our best dollars spent are our self-performed dollars. We can get a lot of work done for the same money. And what we ended up basically doing is we'll take that work on. We obviously aren't going to award something that expensive. And we'll just have to shrink a portion of the overlay work that we do this year to compensate for that. And it's going to be the best outcome. And just wanted to thank the board. Those opportunities wouldn't exist if you hadn't supported us on that. We really are appreciative, and we're doing a lot of good work with those dollars. So thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. French.
So I think I heard what I wanted to hear, but I'm not sure. So correct me if I'm wrong. The equipment that you're talking about here, did you say that it would remove PCBs out of the roadway or not?
Well, the cleaning of the stormwater catch basins absolutely prevents PCBs from entering any of the water systems for sure.
Okay.
both the sweeping and the factoring, they call it source control. It's getting the pollutants off the roadway before they get into our systems, before they get injected through dry wells or through ditches into water bodies. So it's what everybody prefers. It's so much more efficient than trying to clean them up after the fact.
So where I'm going with the question is, I remember a couple of years ago when Ecology came in and said, you know, there's a PCB contamination in the river and everybody's responsible for cleaning their share up, but they never did apportion what our share was. So is this a method that can contribute to that effort that Ecology wants to see about getting PCBs out of the water or not?
Yes.
Okay.
That definitely does help with PCBs out of our aquifer.
Great. Thank you.
If I could, so just to piggyback on, what you were looking at here about, you know, the hiring out potholes, doing stuff in-house. I know one of the things that I continue, and I don't know if this is across all districts, one of the things that a lot of folks reach out to is the crack filling, crack sealing. How are we as far as those, you know, I know some years we have two groups that are out there filling cracks. I know some years when hiring has been tough, we've only had one out there. What's the situation this year?
We have one crack seal.
It is
this year. Yeah, and it really is driven by staffing. Crack seal runs with one full-time employee and then 6 or 7 summer helps. So essentially it's real efficient for us in terms of using FTEs, but it's hard to get that many summers. It's a better year than normal, but we're still not getting everybody we would like. And that second crack seal crew tends to be what gives, because we also rely on summers for traffic control for the chip seal crew and the overlay crew, because it takes a lot of people to run traffic control on roadways. Each group has 5 or 6. But it's a huge help. I mean, we want to get all we can, but they cycle through. So we'll get people in, then some won't show up and some leave sooner than we think. Some we have to wait until school's out. A lot of them are students. So we don't get them until June this time of year.
Okay.
So it's much better than it's been in previous years, but not quite good enough.
Okay.
We would love to do that. The crack feels huge help with keeping the roads safe.
What do you encourage folks to do to make sure you know about a specific crack in their neighborhood? You recommend?
I don't have a crack line yet. Maybe we should.
I'm just,
No, people are good to call us and,
okay.
you know.
Because where I hear it's in the residential neighborhoods is where people want that work done. That's where I hear about it. Folks will say, we have a big crack right out in front, you know, my kid rides a skateboard or rollerblades and there's this big crack and they catch a wheel in it and they fall, you know, kind of thing. That's usually kind of, you know, where I hear about it.
And thanks to the support of the board, realistically, we will have some dollars to look at for local access roads, which we historically have not. And first thing we'll do is cracks. Because that's that keeps those from propagating and expanding and becoming alligatored. And that in our scrub seals that we've been doing lately, where you can take a heavily alligatored road. And normally the treatment would be to rebuild the roadway. But low volume roads, local access roads, we've been able to scrub seal them really successfully and it holds together. You know, it doesn't have the same loading our arterials have.
Okay. Commissioner French?
Yeah, so on the TIF board meeting here a couple weeks ago, they were talking about a project that had been awarded to Deer Park. And then they needed some alterations to it to be able to pull it back into budget, and evidently they addressed their issue. I don't know whether they changed the scope or did something else. Are you aware of what Deer Park is trying to do with the major, I guess it's the truck route going through Deer Park, but I could be wrong on that, but have they solved their problem? And so just curious.
We are in conversation with them because like all our other small cities, we typically will do that TID work for them. Right. And I think Becca and our maintenance group has been talking to them. I don't know the details of the project. We were encouraging them to apply. You know, Roger Krieger retired.
Yeah.
So they're getting their sea legs again, right?
Yeah.
New staff. And I we had encouraged them to apply to TID. They hadn't been applying. This is kind of their last year. I believe they're graduating. There was they get too big to apply for the small cities grants after this year. But yeah, we are gonna help them with that project if they can get it together.
But I know you used TID to do the resurfacing at Medical Lake, and those roads are fantastic. I mean, thank you. You guys did a great job on that.
Yeah, we're doing the other half this year. We did half of it last year and then we're gonna finish it out this year. That'll leave them in a lot better shape than they
Yeah.
were, so we're happy for that.
Those roads are like glass. Thank you.
You know, and you know, that takes our crews off our books and allows us to reinject that money back in preservation. So that's a huge help.
Commissioner CUNY?
Yeah, hey, Matt, I think we're gonna be talking soon, because I've got 2 roads in my district that I'm getting lots of complaints about. So, I don't know if you've got time today. We don't need to take up time in the boardroom, but, we're talking about the new ways that we're trying to do things. It's, as everyone's very familiar with Stevens Creek, that's one of them. And then, Painted Hills is the other. That they're saying based on the stormwater damage, that we experienced this spring, it's just not, I got a letter just talking about, and I guess this is what I don't know, legal can help me with this. When people are having damage to their vehicles, is that on us or is that when we know about it? Because I'm now informed that a UPS truck and another car had damage.
Yeah, no, it's happy to visit offline with you about that too, but it's to your point, it's the entire county and we will be chasing it the whole year. I was just up in the North County too, and we have major rural arterials like Elk Chattaroy, Tallman and Nelson, major paved roads with lots of big potholes and safety concerns. These are higher speed roads, high volume roads. So we will definitely be working, and I'm aware of Locksaw and Apache and all those up in Painted Hills. They really came apart this year. So that's definitely happy to visit more and visit with the constituents, Commissioner CUNY. But it's going to take us the whole year to patch the roads back together. We'll definitely get up there as soon as we can.
Yeah, the Chattaroy Road is just, it's almost dirt.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And we did another overlay. If you go up there, we're overlaying from north to south with our crews, and then we're rebuilding from south to north with major projects. And there's just a gap left. They've done a great job. We're closing that gap,
Yeah.
but the gap is bad. I was on it this weekend and
Yeah. Goats were afraid to jump over the
they were
cracks.
too much.
Just wanted to call out one other really cool project we're working on right now. I don't recall, we got a air quality grant for commonly referred to as the Triangle, which is over by Upriver Drive, Frederick, Euclid area right there, where there's a patch of dirt roads in a totally urban environment right there by the substation. And we received a grant to actually bring those up to a paved surface. The crews are out there right now. It's looking pretty awesome. And it just, that little area just kind of stands out as why the heck is this still dirt?
It was a cool opportunity because they're low volume local access roads. We never would have gotten to paving them, but this grant allowed us to get them surfaced, and it's a huge benefit. It's urban density. They're city lot size, and it's gonna be a nice benefit for a lot of people. So that one felt really good. That was air quality grant.
So, this is a little off topic, but timely. As many of you know, we've been working with the Fairchild Air Force Base to get that second gate open, and we now are in the process of finalizing out the financial aspects of the outside of the gate project. And we are applying for a DCIP grant that I think we're in great shape for receiving if we can get the application in, which is due July 3rd. And so one of the requirements is a letter from the base commander in support of the project, and Jeff Johnson is working to secure that letter. But the other thing that we need is a affirmation for the Board of County Commissioners that they support the project. And so the application is due on July 3rd, and we don't meet that week. So the only opportunity we have to take an action on this is going to be next week. And so I wanted to raise the issue because of the timeliness of it, and I might be preempting Kyle and Matt a little bit here, but I'm just sensitive to the timing on this thing. That like to request that we bring an action forward next week for the board's consideration to draft a letter and adopt a motion to support the project, which we have been supportive of for many years with removing the S curve, the roundabout, and this covers the stretch from the roundabout Thorpe Road to the gate, and then Fairchild will be covering the cost of the gate itself and everything inside the gate. So just wanted to put this on the radar for being included in the agenda for next week.
Commissioner, I can review again with my staff, but I believe the board can simply direct the executive director to sign that letter. I don't know if it requires a board action.
If that's the case, then great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Fairly
it's on the
certain
radar
that-
so that we didn't get caught next week.
Thank you.
Is this something you would normally just sign that this is a grant you'd normally go after?
It just has some, we've applied in the past.
Oh, okay.
There's a few different defense related grant programs that are difficult to get. But I think we are getting, it's nice because the project is moving on the basis side, so it's putting a more timely impetus on, they can't open that gate with the road in this condition.
But
And
no reason we wouldn't go after this, right?
No, there's no
Okay.
other county interest competing for it.
Okay.
The
Then
only
I-
opportunity
I'm-
for us is.
I'm fine with giving you permission to sign on behalf of us, and if that works, but Commissioner CUNY?
Yeah, so I guess I just want to know before I mean, I'm happy to support this if I know what the financial ramifications are. I mean, I think it's what are we asking for in a project? Is there a match money? How are we funding that match money? So those are the things that I'd want to make sure that I know before I just blanketly say yes.
Yeah, so
Can
the
we-
match money would be coming from S3R3 because it's inside the boundary for the PDA. And so we've talked about this as a board and we'll probably be scheduling a special board meeting to take an action as a board to dedicate those funds to do the match. So it won't be coming out of the county's coffers. And then the rest of the cost of the project is covered through a variety of grants and or funds that we've already allocated to the project and the road budget.
specifically, Commissioner, the Thorpe portion of the project is approximately $3.5 million. And it is a 30% match. So yeah, we'd be looking for help from S3R3 and anybody else who would support that, not impacting local dollars.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just as we just got, notice of all the things that still need to be done around the county. It's just, so I'm happy to see that the match would be coming from S3R3. So thanks, Al.
We give a head nod today for Kyle or Kyle, or did you say director or CEO?
I think CEO.
Okay, CEO, okay, we all good with Scott signing off to seek the grant? Okay.
And just a couple more things on it. Kyle's team will be coming in, I think, middle of July or so to give a broader overview of what they've been working on with Commissioner French on the S curve, the roundabout and Thorpe Road. So you can see visuals of it and how does all the funding come together for it. But this one is, because it's not a request to use match money from the county, I would want you all to be approving such a letter if it was bidding match dollars. But because this is looking at S3R3, I think we have a path forward on that. But to give you the full picture of how all three of these projects would come together, I think it'll be a good visual for you, and that'll be the upcoming couple of weeks.
And we will be covering several corridors. We'll get into the details because Craig's got a million moving pieces. But we want to also make sure the whole board is aware of just, we have projects scattered throughout the county, but there's several key corridors that are going to be multi-year efforts, multiple grant cycles, and just making sure everybody has eyes on all of them.
And the nature of this grant, it's called DCIP, which is Defense Community Infrastructure Program, and it's specifically for infrastructure to support a military installation. And nothing could be more in line with the parameters. And I did have an opportunity last week to speak with the project or the grant administrator, and we're in really good shape to be receiving the grant money.
I think the great thing too is, with all the various funding sources, current and potential, it's bringing the ability to complete that particular intersection improvement and length of road together, all in a very more rapid time frame.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Justin Johnson. There you are.
Good morning, commissioners. Pass some of these out while doing this.
Here to talk about some provider agreement amendments and your annual report.
Oh, pick one. Yes, charts. Yes, this is the
Oh, that's a fun.
nice picture. Headshot, very nice. Yeah. Thanks. This is that time of the year that we do the updates because of the state contracts of the state fiscal year. So July 1st, we give a little teaser on this. So a lot of contracts coming through. What I'll do is what we normally do, questions if they come up, but mostly major changes to what the board has approved in January and or previous cycles. So that's what we'll be covering. We're also giving an update on the mini grant cycle, the selection programs. Then with the end report, we'll just briefly go over that. See, it's a lengthy one, so we'll just do some call outs there. So for the first one, we have a change that will be occurring with some of the state names. So you'll see that change from DD or DSHS. DSH is still there, but it'll be DDCS will be now the new administrative oversight over contracts that we previously had with DD, the restructuring in DSHS that realigned some of their internal divisions, partly due to budget cuts. They wanted to streamline processes. So it's going to be developmental disabilities and community services is the new division that we work with. So that's just a name change, so that the contract, the oversight, and the specific services remain the same. We still have not received it, but we do project, as you see there, the number $12 million, similar to what we had before. I will say that there is an expectation in the next fiscal cycle. We might see some reductions. Again, they're constantly reviewing these to determine how they're going to fund them. But in this last ledge, they did not reduce significantly a lot of our contracts, maintaining a lot of the services. So it's good news. As I had indicated before, it's something to be mindful as we look to 2027 state fiscal year. Next slide. We still have also not received the HCA contract. Now, big call out on this one. Next slide is there are slight reductions in some of the funding having to do with services specific to the block grants. There was a slight reduction on areas because the ARPA dollars aren't there anymore. Then there's also a slight reduction on some of the RNP or Recovery Navigator Program services that the legislature reduced. It's about a 20% cut on that. So that'll be some of the major ones. We will have to pass those cuts down, but they front loaded a lot of the money. And because we've been managing really well, we don't anticipate we'll actually have to do any significant cuts to the providers until actually January 1st of 2026. So we'll be working with them to see what that cut and impact will be. But if there is any, as we look to 2026, it will be the providers will be able to begin planning in advance without any significant resource change in the next 6 months. That's good news. Again, not all the regions, including those on the west side, have that same ability, but we've been managing it really well. That's good news coming out of that. Otherwise, our funding remained the same. Because of our willingness to come to the table early and meet with the state, we were the first ASO to do that. We were able to negotiate the funding so that everything that they paid back, there was no reduction to the allocation of funding we do expect in July. So great news. A lot of good work by the team to ensure that we had level of service be maintained.
Good question. Yeah, this might not be, I don't think it's quite on point, but it just popped in my brain. New law around the ASO having more influence on the crisis care dollars. When does that take effect?
So some of the work will begin July 1st, but technically the transition or the full requirement will go in effect till January 1st of 2026.
So you'll be kind of working to plan the implementation of that
Yes.
for starting really next year. Okay.
And I'll put some clarity on that. So 1813 that passed that did delegate more responsibility to carve out crisis services from Medicaid to the ASO. That's where, and there was a couple other provisions in that, including expanding the use of some of the funding. It designated additional services. Now, we already have that designation from the MCOs for the vast majority of a set of services, crisis response, ITA, all of that's been clearly outlined. We have that already. What's going to change is we're going to be adding in the crisis relief services and stabilization services, which are currently under them. So we'll be paying directly. Yes, we'll be paying that directly. So you might see at like the SRSC, we'll be doing all of the stabilization authorizations and payment through us instead of Pioneer having to go and do individual agreements with the MCOs. So that'd be sort of the thing we'll be working out. As the feedback that the state received, even though they passed this, was the money still remains limited and it's based on the federal government's passing the Medicaid dollars down. So although we may expand that, the money to be able to provide for that may still be limited. So there was a lot of unknowns on that.
So is it like a slice of the total Medicaid pie is dedicated for that crisis system?
Yes, and that's how it is currently.
That's why the total federal amount impacts on what ultimately comes here.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry not to get us off topic.
And really the big part is covered individuals. When they have less covered individuals, we receive less of a per member per month payment, or so do they. And that's really where they lose a lot of the available dollars. Also, then those individuals fall in the non-Medicaid voluntary services, which we have limited funds.
Well, then with the Medicaid dollars, it's also going to be some additional criteria that's got to be met to confirm eligibility as well. So that's going to be coming down as well.
Yes, the current projection is 2027 for the earliest of those to go into effect. However, I just saw the Senate gave their response back to the bill, which looked for deeper cuts and those requirements going into effect sooner than 2027. Again, from the state's response in this next year, they don't expect to see a significant change as they implement those rules. But I do think in 2026, we'll start to see the effects. And again, really, they're going to be going into the non-Medicaid. They may still need the service. They may not be able to afford the service. And so we got to figure out how we're going to cover those individuals if it's not Medicaid and if we have available resources. Again, I think we are better positioned, and with the work that we're doing with the Relief Center, that carve out gives us a lot more ability to determine how we use those funds. So I think that was the biggest win, is more flexibility and direct determination. So the board will have oversight on, once this officially goes online, how you will utilize both Medicaid and non-Medicaid funds to cover that, instead of waiting for them to do it externally. But again, I don't envision we'll see many changes to this. The ongoing funds that we have, including some of the True Blood dollars, will remain. And part of that supports the Pioneers SRSC's services there at the facility as well. Next slide. Again, these are just some of our providers. There's been some changes in services in the past. We've had to, some providers decide not to continue contracting because not Medicaid is a big portion. For example, children are generally almost 90% covered either by commercial or Medicaid. So it's not an area that we fund a lot for the for uninsured or non-Medicaid. However, that may change. So we are continually maintaining a system that is able to provide for that. That's where you'll see in the past, we've made some slight adjustments to provider network. Next slide. And then our HARPS contract with HCA. Now you'll see two of our divisions actually, one of them provides a service, one of them receives the contract. One of those unique ones where it's housing and recovery through peer services. They pass the dollars to the ASO, which then the board is approved to pass down to our CARES, our counseling recovery direct service. This supports individuals exiting out Eastern State Hospital or another psychiatric facility, do housing support and vouchers for emergency housing if necessary, really to ensure that they remain stable and independent living and don't go back to hospitals. That contract is expected to continue. Although we did get a note that the state was examining this, this might be an area of cutting in 2026. So I just want to call that out. The current response received is that we will maintain it. I do anticipate there will be a slight cut. The state looks at resources in the state fiscal year 2027. Next slide. And then our CBRA grant, this is through Department of Commerce. We also expect this to come down for the July 1. We thought there would be no changes, and then we just heard that they are expecting some reductions. We don't know. We're still waiting for the final number. I don't believe it'll be over 20%. And we've been very good at managing this. So there are dollars that we could reduce in areas that wouldn't see a significant impact. But most of the dollars that we have put out for housing and housing support are long-term subsidies. Individuals who are in that and receiving a subsidy for their rent to maintain their housing. Those are maintained over a long period of time. Once you start that, it does not end until that individual meets the qualifications in the program. You're kind of set. So those ones we won't touch. Means individuals who are receiving it currently will continue. There'll be new or additional individuals being added on. So if there are any, that's the impact. So, and then just those agencies and what counties. Currently, Adams County, we've tried every year to get a provider. It is so hard to maintain that, especially with housing in those areas. So every year we put a request out, and every year we get told, no, that's too difficult. We don't want to work with that. And I don't fault the requirements for commerce on those dollars are onerous on the agencies administratively. But we did maintain more resources last year, and they're continuing with us in those 3 counties as well. So that was a wonderful win for us working with them. Next slide. Big change on our VOA contract. Well, big change in terms of what the service delivery they're providing. No, not a big change on the actual contract. So this is something the board is using mental health sales tax for to support the behavioral health transitional support. It is a provider, behavioral provider, and 2 of their homeless shelters that provide this ancillary behavioral support for all things that aren't directly attributable to a mental health condition, meaning they're not being diagnosed there, but they also are experiencing a mental health, behavioral health challenge. If they don't want to seek treatment, this provider will bridge that gap so they don't have to need insurance or other coverage, ensures they're connected, and really also destigmatizes if individuals are homeless, are also experiencing behavioral health, but also don't want to go to a traditional behavioral health provider. They bridge that gap. VOA notified us that they are making a change at their Hope House. They're switching to a medical respite model. So that model does have billable services on the medical side to Medicaid. In that service model, it does allow for a lot of services that this program provides. So we're working with them to say, we can't duplicate or supplant the funds that you're receiving, but how can we support them? The other behavioral support provider in the YAS, the young adult shelter, is continuing. So that part we will remain. And it's very beneficial, I believe, to ensuring those individuals are connected. But for now, we're going to continue to evaluate the one with Hope House, see where that final contract comes.
And what's the timeline on that? Hope House Park and the medical respite model. As I recall, I thought there was some state guidance coming out or expected to come out from the healthcare authority around the billing direction on that.
Yes, and that did come out. They also reference a national model. So there's a code and there are clear guidelines from the state. They still have to secure the contract with the managed care organizations to actually bill.
Okay.
Because it isn't direct from the state.
So is there a timeline? Our piece would you anticipate to be done? You said you're working with them on that.
We will continue to allow for that service to be provided while they do the transition.
Okay.
Once it's fully in place and they're billing, that's when we'll see what services are being provided. We believe that model incorporates all of the elements. So it'll be have informed us that they would still like that service to be provided in conjunction. That's kind of where we're at. So then the question is, if not there, if they're already receiving it, where else? And that's where we're going to evaluate. I don't anticipate they'll get that done by the July 1st, so it's going to be more of a come back to you in September to discuss. Next slide. And then I said about the DD agreements, no major changes in terms of the service scope overall, what the state's pushing down to us. However, we are making a change to kind of streamline the process. Instead of putting multiple agreements out for every service, even like we do with ASO, combining for each agency under one master agreement, and then there'll be subsections of scopes of work for each of the services. That should streamline for the board to sign, not a dozen or so for every agency, but just one. Make it administratively less burdensome and also more clearly articulate to the agencies everything that's included. Truly to their budget. You know, when they have to do 4 different contracts and look at the budgets, it's not as clear. Now we're combining it and outlining it all at once. So it's really just about cleaning up some historical stuff and take some time. But you'll see those come through. Next slide. And then, of course, these are our providers, and you'll see a couple new ones there, but they were part of previous contracts. One of those is the Rosalie Foundation. They support one of our other projects in terms of providing a conference that does education support for individuals in the community, providing support to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They will be taking the front on providing the administrative oversight of that. Another agency in previous had done that, but they decided to step back. And so Rosalie stepped forward and said they would take on that responsibility. That's really one of the major changes you'll see them being added to the contract, just to the administrative oversight of something the board has already approved going back a couple of years. Next slide. And then we just got done with our mini grants. So state in aid awards from the state funds the major overall grants for services provided under the DD contracts. The mini grants are funded through the millage, which provides additional services to enhance and support service to individuals in Spokane County. We just got done with that. It's about $120,000 that we put out. And next slide, they went through procurement. The procurement committee selected. These were the awarded ones. You can see in here, I don't want to go through too many here because it's exhaustive, but they have various projects that they'll be doing, transportation for individuals to and from services, including community inclusion for those with who are disabilities and are aging, stuff like that. It's going to provide greater connection, greater awareness, and allow for more inclusion of individuals. A lot of fun, cool things that they decided to do this year. For the small amount that we put out, it was a wonderful impact for the community. Next slide. These are the ones that were not awarded by the committee. A lot of great ideas, but they only had so much money. So we encouraged them to apply next year. In addition, there were 3 agencies that provided and had been awarded mini grants in the past. Part of the services that they provided fell within the scope of the state funding. And so we actually included those in the main agreements this year as well. Taking out the mini grant process is now they're covered by state funding. So you'll still see that benefit of the service they provided. However, they won't have to be waiting on an award every year for that. It's cool. We've got the state to be able to cover that as well. Next slide. So that was a quick rundown of all of our contracts that are up for signing by the board. Again, I don't anticipate any major changes to July 1. One of the things you'll see is the crisis system will have expansion of the 90-day rapid response. That's part of that addition. We still don't know what that will look like. That will increase our ability to respond by 18 new responders in the community as part of our ongoing comprehensive build out of crisis response. So we should be able to see more behavioral providers serving the community directly on the streets. So that's another benefit. We don't know exactly when the state will be rolling that out. We do anticipate beginning July 1 with a August or September staffing hitting to a point that we'll be able to see them on the street. It's 18 new people, so that takes some time to build out. All right, any questions on those contracts that you'll be seeing? So the last thing I like to add is just our 2024 annual report. Haven't been able to get the time to bring this out, so I want to just provide it to you. A lot of cool things we did, a lot of call outs on some of the amazing work. It all goes back to the community services department team. They're a wonderful group of individuals who work tirelessly to ensure the services. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And a shout out to Katie Rice, who helped develop and build this. So again, win for me.
I had a feeling.
When I was able to grab her from Commissioner Waldrop before she was a commissioner. So it's a lot of cool things in here. Some major things, 150,000 services provided to individuals across all of our divisions, almost 35,000 individuals uniquely served. We didn't include some of the new services because 2025 saw expanded sobering. And it also doesn't include all of the other like non-unique individuals to our R&P program that we aren't able to identify. They do engage because people don't provide their names. So really cool stuff in there. A lot of the money that the board approved this last year went out to the community for building and enhancing workforce as well as developing services. So again, we have a really robust system and we continue to ensure that system is responsive to the needs of the community. And I think that we are doing it. This is maybe my prideful way, doing a lot better than others in across the state. So a lot of cool things. Take some time to read it. Instead, like it would be coming from our department, but it does have a lot of cool quotes and call outs. We tried to identify from the community individuals who were served who gave feedback as to what that looked like. And that was my update.
Good. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, next up, Doug Chase.
That's a tough act to follow. That's my goodness. I think I'll go with that theme of really cool things. If you want to pull items here. And I want to do a shout out. Julia Culp was not able to join me this morning. She's put a lot of great work into this. She's our lead project manager. She might be listening in, but had some conflict. So want to make sure I recognize what a great job she's doing on this project. So the first item I have for you commissioners is a request for authorization that will allow us to extend and provide an easement for a power line and new power service that's needed to serve Camas Meadow Park. I think there was a small 200 amp overhead there on the site before we demoed. And so next slide, please. And there's, you can see there highlighted, we have, it shows the route there, I think to the restroom where the power will be. I believe it's a 400 amp service this time around. Next slide, please. And the request is to authorize Scott Simmons and or the chair. The resolution would allow for either the chair or Scott to sign the easement paperwork. And we've prepared and provided that to Gina. So whichever option should it be pursued, we have both available. And that's all I have for this particular one. Pretty straightforward on the power easement authorization.
Commissioner French.
Great work and project's coming along really nice. Do you have a projected completion date yet for the park?
Gosh,
plus or minus a year?
Oh, I think we're looking at, I think maybe September or sooner. So that's gosh, Julia just.
So plus or minus a year, it's done.
It's done.
Yeah, we're looking and it'll be late summer, early fall.
Okay.
I think based on what I'm hearing. That's moving right along. I think, well, I'll roll right into the next one. I have a little update on it.
Okay.
And can talk a little more about that. And by golly, she has it in the first slide. So we'll pull that one up. She's good. She's good. Next slide, please. So quick update. My next item is quick updates on Camas Meadow and Plants Ferry and an item on plants. And so the update is we are moving along. We've had no major scope changes. We've had one unforeseen item there with a sidewalk on Melville. And that's going to be actually a 10-foot paved pathway. I believe that will link the neighborhood. You can see we've kind of imposed a red line there in the 2 slides. And the anticipated completion is towards the end of August. Which, there we go. It's just great. Next slide, please. Again, we just, you recognize the layout there, and we show where that 10-foot pathway across the street will link that community existing development to the park. And next slide, please. And now I'm into Plants Ferry. So that's the update for Camas. We're right on track. And for Plants Ferry, we are at an exciting point where we're getting ready to commence construction in the next few weeks. But in order to do that, you may recall there was some significant success. Appreciate the help and support from the board, and in efforts from Senator Marcus Riccelli in obtaining an additional $1 million in state funds capital to help with this project. And what this involves is a change in scope. And in addition to the 1 million commitment from you board and the county, this will allow us to revise our scope. Next slide, please. And you may recall we were looking at highlighted there in yellow. The scope that we were on track for with the funds available would have allowed 2 out of the 3 synthetic turf fields, additional parking. I think we're about 159 stalls, and a portion of the road allowing us a little bit closer to Trent. And with the change in scope and the additional funds, next slide, please. This will allow us to fulfill all 3 of the synthetic turf fields with the additional parking. We're using some savings from that portion of the road that we're no longer doing there. And they will be fully illuminated. Next slide, I think again speaks to how we're able to use those funds. So it will not only help with the synthetic turf and illumination. There's additional equipment. We're able to have some enhancements, irrigation automatic within there for cooling that will save a lot on the maintenance and operations side throughout the lifespan of the facility. We have some additional striping costs and just design and earthwork. And another component of this not seen in the graphic where the earth is flat is by doing all 3 at the same time, they will be at the same level. They will all be on the same level. Had we done 2 and phased the 3rd in later, the 3rd field would have been about 4 feet difference in elevation. So this is much more desirable as they look at that mass earth moving package. They can optimize it in this way to maximize the benefit. So we're really pleased to be able to do this and to be moving forward with this. And next slide, please. And there's a scope document that's not very fun to look at. Next slide, please. And effectively, what we're looking to do here, since we are waiting on the official contract from the state of Washington that will allow us to be under contract to receive the additional funding from the state. In the meantime, we'd like the contractor to proceed forward with the new scope and the new construction. And again, they're a few weeks away from doing this. So we've prepared a memorandum of understanding, working with our legal, coordinating with grants that will allow them to proceed with the new scope. And then we'll wait until we're under contract with the state, and then we can come back and do one formal change order that will incorporate the additional dollars. There'll be additional language associated with the funds from the state that has to be incorporated into the contract. And it's much cleaner and easier to be able to do that after we're under contract with the state. And so this MOU, should you authorize the chair, or excuse me, the CEO or myself to sign, will allow us to commence with construction with the contractor. They're very comfortable with the language. And then we'll come back to you. We anticipate sometime in July, likely towards the end of July, with a formal change order to formalize it once we're under contract with state, which of course we'll come back to you for that as well. And that's what we have before you. So next slide. There we go.
Any questions for Doug?
Got a couple of comments. Great job by the contractor and Doug and his team. As I recall, when we were originally scoping Camas Meadows, working with the contractor, we were hopeful and optimistic we could get it done by the end of this season, like the October timeframe. And so to deliver it, potentially 2 months early is really exciting for the community out there. I'm sure Rich is also excited about that as well. Maybe.
I'm wondering where you're going with this.
I'll shift now to.
I'm trying to figure out, can I clear this table or
I
not?
know he's gonna say, but.
Nope.
But that's what I'm waiting for, is the but.
I was a kudos, and then the second one shifting over to Plants Ferry. When as Doug shared the picture here, that connection down to Trent, I have recently shared this information back with John Holman of Valley. We were able to now get the 3 fields, which is really important, lighted, fenced parking lot. So I've shared with him the kind of the drawings, the design work that Doug and his team will have completed with the contractor. And I think we just got kind of back the estimate of cost to do that. So I told John I would share that and see if the Valley has some funding resources, whether it's LTAC or others, to be able to support that connection if they think it's important. There's a portion of this is county, portion of it's on state land, and then the remaining connection is in the Valley itself. So just an update. So the commissioners are aware that has been shared with the Valley to see if there is some ability for them to identify some funding. If it is, it could be something that we could possibly change order in with the contractor already out there. So it kind of completes this phase of it. That's just an unknown at this point in time, but possible.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Doug.
okay, thank you very much.
Right, Scott, you wanted to cover the next item?
Yes, this
Mailing services agreement?
This is related to our APA education and mailers for our everyone within the APA boundaries. Pat and team have been working with the various jurisdictions related to kind of their costs related around this. I think you've all seen some emails on it, but the estimate was up to about $75,000. The city had asked each of the jurisdictions if they want to do it on their own, did they want us to do it on their behalf and recover the costs through future EPA dollars. The city of Spokane is elected to insert it in their utility mailers, which is great. So that'll take a significant portion off of this contract. The contract's likely probably going to be more like $35,000, but it was already on the agenda for board approval since it was over 50. But the rest of the dollars will cover from Public Works. It's not a general fund impact at all. So any questions on that particular piece? Okay. Good. We're going to do a utility insert as well as some mailers, just so that we, get, sometimes people open up utility bills and may not read things that are in there, but a mailer that's specifically identified the Public Works team thought that would be much more valuable to ensure people are having their eyes on the importance of the APA.
Just a quick question. So the city will do a utility mailer, we'll do a utility mailer, and then the fact sheet we looked at, that's more like to hand out, give to people, have up on the website. So they're still gonna design, there's this mailer.
Yes, so we've got the county has designed the mailer, as I recall, and Mark, if I miss anything, jump in, but we've designed the mailer, everyone is, all the other jurisdictions
I
are
saw the mailer, I saw the fact sheet and I saw the.
it's kind of like
utility inserts.
condensed, I think it's a condensed version of what the fact sheet is gonna look like. And then everyone has said, let's point to the county's website that we already have up and operational. So the other jurisdictions don't have to repeat the work of setting up their own websites.
So if I have any questions, follow up with,
Say Martha Lou right now, yes.
okay. And I'm I liked most of the mailer. I thought the utility insert was kind of stark. But I guess it's because it was black and white.
Oh, I haven't seen the visual of it yet.
It's,
Pat emailed it out last week.
yeah, I don't know if there's still a chance, and I apologize. I just ran out of time last week to get back to communications team. But if there's any chance to give a few little ideas of input, just to make it a little bit more attractive to read. But I know it has to be very factual, but it doesn't have to be like,
It's not to be blasé.
or yeah, kind of.
Color increase the cost.
I get that. I think maybe there's a way not to have these like black boxes that jump out at you. Like, I don't know. There must be a way to make it a little more engaging. I don't know. So if there's still time to give input, but you've already sent it to the
Close.
printer.
No.
Okay,
But it's close.
okay.
It has to be this week. And we're closed on Thursday.
Well, I'll try and get feedback today.
Okay, thank you.
Just ran out of time last week.
So deadline is the end of the week, you're saying? Reason I ask is, would it say measure 1 or measure 2?
We don't know yet.
Would that be included in the material?
That's part of what we're waiting on, is to find out the valid title number.
I thought we knew that.
I think it just
we knew it was measure 1.
Well, I did, following up on our previous conversation, I met with the auditor yesterday and raised the issue of the naming of ballot measures potentially being different than the current policy, and she's considering that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know if there's some kind of printing deadline, or what are the hard deadlines in which such a decision would need to be made in order for clarity around communications. Does anyone know what that deadline is?
This week.
This week.
Okay, because things have to be ordered. Print materials be put in at a certain time. Okay.
Right.
I will share that and report if I hear anything back.
So normally when does the auditor, the elections office let us know what the measure is? Like what, so we can advertise it correctly?
Does the prosecutor's office know that?
I mean, it's already been changed.
You don't have all of
Not at
the
all. I don't
facts
have
of
it
the
all.
office.
And I understand, we want stuff to go out in July because that's the month that the ballot is in August, so July is like the month to really get all the information out. Get the mailers out, get the utility bill inserts out, so.
We need to have the printing company time to do the work they need to.
Right.
So I will share that information back with her office so she can take that into account and let us know if anything.
Sounds like post haste.
Would
Yes,
it help if we tag team Commissioner Jordan?
no.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's her decision, right? It's like within her jurisdiction, and so she just needs to know what the deadline is.
Each of us in this room, let's shoot her an email.
I
Each
don't
of us.
I don't
I'll
know.
set up meetings with her.
I don't know if that would know. If
Drum up some grassroots support out of this room.
you want to start a
So-
petition, that's on you.
So that's V Dalton. No.
But we really should have on all the materials what the measure
Yeah.
is called.
Yes, yep.
Because
Yes.
people will be looking at that on their ballot.
Yeah. I will share that, thank you.
Okay, well then that brings us to miscellaneous items. Anybody have anything for us? Anything for the good of the order? No? Okay, anybody have any questions about anything on the 2 o'clock? Need to clear up anything before? Okay.
Commissioner Burns, we had one executive session item pop up today.
Today, okay.
So if we could have a pending and potential litigation, no action, 10 minutes.
Okay.
Board, Scott Simmons, Matt Folsom, Kyle Tui.
Okay,
Jeff and Jeff Morris.
and Jeff Morris. Okay, so for the purpose stated by Mr. Folsom, we will be going into an executive session for 10 minutes. At the conclusion of the executive session, we will not be adjourning, but we will be continuing today's meeting until 1 o'clock. At which time we'll be joined by elected officials and department heads for a meeting to discuss the budget. So it is 11:12. We will begin our executive session here, and we'll give ourselves 3 minutes to get the technology all set up. We will begin at 11:15 again for the purpose stated by Mr. Folsom. 10 minutes. And we will see everybody back at 1 o'clock for the continuation of this meeting.